What up?
What's going on, brother?
Perfect timing.
Perfect.
Perfect and perfect.
Perfect.
What's going on?
California man now, huh?
California, back in action.
Nice.
Back in
You
black.
digging it?
Hit the sack. Yeah, there's some wicked good parts of it.
Nice.
Good. That's really good.
It's I had a um I have a buddy who took a new like soccer coaching job,
Yeah.
and I saw him after he'd already made that switch, and I just said, "Hey, how's this one going?" And he goes, "It's new and different in all the right ways."
Nice. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's good. That's about right. Like that's how when it goes well. That's fun.
Yeah. It's actually, but it's not really. Yeah. It's a really good way to put it because everything's. But in mine, I would just add that because I used to do it. Used to do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
What's this? Can you see me still?
yeah.
There was an
Yep.
error loading your app.
Oh,
Is
I had
that
that too. It's one of the ones on the side that just doesn't work for some reason. I had the same problem.
weird?
Yeah, it's not loading the entire app. It's just the error loading the one part of the apps on the side.
Huh, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
Oh, but I was saying, yeah, just because I did the same thing, but everything's changed.
Yeah.
Because the last time I did it, I was working with this Laura girl that started this, and
Yeah.
it was a ministry of that St. Andrew's Church. But now it's its own thing. So she's a different style leader,
Hmm.
and all bets are off. And then Michigan changed me, dude. For the better. Like there's it's neat. It's really cool to see how that place really had a profound impact on me. And that couple of years that I spent serving there is
That's really cool.
yeah,
When
right.
what walk me through what you're actually doing.
Well, right before, you remember I was working in St. Andrews. Uh, when the whole drama came down with Rich coming on board when instead of this other person, uh, and so Rich was in charge, and I was kind of at the bottom of the org chart, and so everybody tried to fire me. But then
Sounds
this
right.
woman, yeah, that sounds about right. Uh, so,
Me.
B, ABC, DVD.
Wait, I want to hear the rest of your story.
Oh, and then so this woman who was the missions and outreach director at St. Andrews, she said, "I'll take the dude." And so she pulled me over to the missions department, and she just started this Bible study at this recovery house called Heritage House. It's a halfway house for
Yeah.
young mothers, and so she had started this Friday in the middle of the day Bible study at this Heritage House. Then, as these women were graduating and moving into their own apartments and out of this Heritage House, but still in the area, she said, "Hey, we should gather once a week just to worship." And so she started this thing called Northeast of the Wells, just this little worshiping community that had mainly connected at this halfway house, Heritage House. But then we invited Orange County Rescue Mission, which is a homeless shelter for families. And then I was moved over, and we invited Teen Challenge because there's guys around that are Teen Challenge. So we're worshiping all together, and it goes from like 20 girls and women and their kids to 100 150 people, men and women. And so um, then I went up to San Marino and got ordained, and
Yep.
she made it its own 503 whatever,
Yeah.
1B, 1C, or whatever like that. She did the hard work and she has a friend who has got really good at writing grants, so she started asking for money from all these different organizations, and she started fundraising, and so she launched two more worship nights. So now there's three worship nights of Northeast of the Well. There's one,
Oh wow.
the original one in Newport Beach, and then the one in Anaheim, right by which is at actually an NACCC church. Like where I was serving at McGrath.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's small. It's the smallest denomination. It's crazy, and it's crazy. This church, anyway, and then one at this another Presbyterian church in Long Beach, right downtown Long Beach, and that's on Wednesday nights. So, and so I preach at all three of them, like I rotate around and preach, Mondays and Wednesdays, and then I also her like ministry model is she goes into these she goes into Heritage House type things, recovery places, starts discipleship groups there, and starts sending bands so that they can worship amongst us, and then they start worshiping with us, and then we start discipleship groups with them on the other side. So it's fun. It's like front lines, and I went from like not being on a road to like to like freeway. Like I'm just running at a really fast clip because they're super hungry. These dudes are super hungry because they've just hit rock bottom. They're on the recovery process, like stepping out, and they need a higher power. And Jesus is the ultimate higher power. It's just amazing. It's really fun. I'm in that.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I'm excited. about it. I'm wicked tired, but I'm excited.
So Wednesday nights now are your late nights too?
Yeah, but they're not as late. They're not as late as Beats. That one has there's an NA meeting that a lot of them have to get to after.
Okay.
So it's earlier than the other ones. The other ones, the ones in Newport and Anaheim, they both go from 6 to 8 because there's a meal from like 6 to 6:45. This one, it's 5 to 7 on Wednesdays. So I'm home by 8
nice.
On Wednesdays. So Thursdays are still probably going to be our best time. With the occasional Friday. I'm so sorry. I love you. I love her. Okay. I so bummed I couldn't come and hang out with you.
I know. We were there for like 3 hours or something.
It would have been awesome. It would have been awesome to hug you. Just
really sunburned.
Give you a noogie. But I'll wait for it. I'll wait till we get to our 3 best because I wanted to be in the podcast just to. No, I'm not gonna. I finally read that book, A Mirror to the Church, that Greg. I think you sent me 2 copies, and I was gonna give one to B on Saturday.
Oh, dang it! I want a book.
I want a book. The book is really good, dude. Once again, Greg,
I wish I would have recommended it to you. That was so dumb of me.
I wish you would have. I wish you would have sent me 2 copies at least. No, seriously, Jay, read this. It's really good, and it's really good. Host Trump.
Yeah.
Like you gave it to me before.
Yeah.
Stuff really started.
I probably gave it to you before Obama.
Yeah, it sounds like a perennial problem that we have. It's not new. Nothing's new under the sun, I think.
Yeah,
man, that's funny, dude.
No, but I think it's even like it's becoming more and more true. Like I think that's more of a danger than it ever has been.
Yeah, that might be true.
Yeah, I'll wait till let me mail one of these copies that you sent me to B.
Like the thread of the traveling band.
And then we'll talk about it because I think that would be a good one to just like we've toyed with ideas with I don't know. Just talk about something different. But
yeah, just once in a while.
That would be a good idea to just talk about
a fun bonus episode.
Yeah. Maybe not a whole hour, just like a half hour one.
Well, yeah, let's not get carried away.
Yeah. Like 15 minutes. I got about 15 minutes on that book.
You don't have 15 minutes on anything, Jason. If we got you started, you could talk for like 4 hours on anything. It doesn't matter what it is.
That's probably true. I'm guilty of that. All right. Hit me.
All right. What are we doing order-wise? What do we want to do?
Yeah. Dude, what's up with this chair?
We can go in any order.
Yeah.
It's been a while now.
So long. It's been so long. Did you ever find those other pods you're supposed to publish or something?
Only the one. I never found the second one. I don't know where it is.
Doesn't it go to YouTube?
Yeah, and I can find it on YouTube, but I'd already moved it onto my computer, and I think I deleted it once I moved it to my computer. Because I actually thought I had uploaded it. And then when I went back to look at the uploads, I realized I didn't upload it. Anyway, let's just say there's more work involved in tracking.
My offer still stands to learn the process, and I can do it too.
All right, we're going to work that out, B. That's going to happen.
Someday. I really can't tell on the last one who chose, but does it matter?
Nope, I think we just start
from... Okay.
We let Bianca pick. Which one do you want to do, B?
Wait, say that again.
Which one would you like to do?
I'll go first.
Yes. All right. Does that mean you intro?
No.
Or somebody else does intros?
Isn't it intro?
Somebody else intro. Somebody will intro. All right, I'll intro. Bianca will go first, and then Jason gets to pick this time.
Yay!
Okay. Yay!
Good. I've got this one in the bank then. This is easy. No problem. I know what I'm picking now. I was trying to decide on my third one, but now I know because I know who's picking. So I'll play the game.
Let it be understood. I don't care who wins.
You are a liar.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Just being together is a win, guys.
I just say my top 3 things.
I wish we could hold hands over the internet.
Oh, right. Oh, man.
Literally not for how angry I get when you don't post them. It's not about being together.
I remember
why did we hang out for an hour if you're not going to post it?
Oh, man.
I remember one time we were circling up to pray. I think it was in the Church of Reconciliation's parking lot. And Greg said, "Let's not hold hands and pray."
That sounds like me.
That's how I feel all the time.
Everybody wants to hold hands constantly. It's like, come on,
the high school group holds hands.
I think you said it just to make me mad because I love holding hands.
I know you do.
I love holding hands.
I love holding hands.
It's like that's on your list this week.
Shock of all shockers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put holding hands.
All right, let me get rolling. That's what I got. That's all I had. Hold on.
Let me get rolling.
Let me get rolling. Say actually do at the beginning, but now it's slowly coming back to you. What's the name of this thing, right, B?
Yeah, that's me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone, welcome back to This Week in Gratitude. We are glad you are with us. If you're just joining us, we have some changes to the program. The biggest one is that our guy, Jason Griffiths, is no longer in Muskegon, Michigan, but he is now on the West Coast in Los Angeles. Jason, thank you for joining us.
Wonderful.
We also have Bianca Quezada. Bianca Quezada. I didn't stop talking. You got to just wait. Bianca Quezada is in Seattle, Washington. So now we are a far West Coast leaning podcast. I am in Texas, San Antonio area. I'm Greg, and we're glad you're with us. This is our podcast. We do, well, we don't do it every week since it's been about 6 of them, but we do it periodically, and we talk about things that we are grateful for in our lives, things that we see God doing, things that we just enjoy and that we think the other ones would enjoy. And we share that in conversation. And we allow and hope the other ones chime in and share parts of their lives with us. And then every week, somebody picks the 5 best things out of that list of things. So that's how the podcast works. If you enjoy the podcast at all, please subscribe. If you are already a subscriber, thanks for hanging on and waiting for us to post a new one again. And if you're not a subscriber and you're listening, I have no idea how that happened. But please subscribe and tell some friends. And that's what we got. B, we're back. What's going on?
That's right. We are back. I am going to start with our first round of things that we are grateful for. Well, I'll just start. My voice is kind of shot because of my first thing, which was we went on our Mexico mission trip last week over spring break, Seattle Public Schools spring break. And although I'm the middle school pastor at UPC, I go on the high school mission trip to build houses in Tijuana, Mexico. And now I've been here long enough that every kid that goes on the high school mission trip I had as a middle schooler, unless, you know, they're a friend that was brought on the trip. There were a few of those. So it's always a meaningful time for me. I used to do the same trip when I was in high school, same orphanage, same type of houses. So we sleep on the ground and there's a lot of dirt. So I got a raspy voice. But it was every year, it's like a highlight of my year. It's hard. It's really tough work, physically, and also just, you know, dealing with your 10 to 12 high schoolers that were in my group, just, you know, their emotions and their attitudes and personalities. But it's all worth it. We all gather together at night and we worship together. I led communion again on one of the last nights. And yeah, it's just a very powerful week, and I'm grateful to be a part of it every year. I've built 8 houses down there now in my life, so that's my first gratitude.
That's awesome. That's a fantastic one.
You had this one last year too, right?
It's
like every year when you do it, which makes total sense. Like,
yeah.
It's not.
I know. My life is on a loop, so.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's pretty. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think what I admire about that is, and I love that every kid knows you. You know, that's in a disposable society, you know, where everything is thrown away. It's kind of crazy. It's convicting to me because I keep moving every 2 years. But I think that's one of the strongest things you can do as a pastor is just stay put and just be there. Like show up and suit up, you know. That's awesome, Pete.
Yeah.
That's oh man, I love that one too. I don't have anything other than what.
Yeah, that's it. We can move on.
I'm very excited. It's the thing that keeps coming into my head, and we go through this every time, and every time you think I'm kidding, but like every time we do this, I'm like, man, I wish my kid had her as a youth.
I know. Yeah, I'm secretly pissed every time.
I know, every single time.
It was yet another amazing trip, you know.
Yeah, and the worst part of that is my kids had me as a youth pastor, and I still wish they would have had you. Like... Oh man.
Yeah, we have a pretty great group. I won't lie.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so I go second, and mine is a far departure from building poor people homes. You guys have been recommending it for years, and I finally pulled the trigger and did it, and I loved Lovesick.
Yeah.
I don't care who knows about it. I enjoyed it.
It's a romantic comedy.
It's a romantic comedy spread over the course of 3 seasons, which is insanely long time to have a romantic comedy.
Except it's only 6 episodes per season.
I know, that helps. It did feel like somebody was asking me to describe it, and I was like, it's sort of like if the writers of Notting Hill spread it out over like 3 years.
But you're just saying that because they're English.
That's it. That's the extent of my ability to analyze people. Is like the accents.
It's a 3-year-long Notting Hill.
Yeah, you sound like you're British, so this must be it. No, but I do like. Oh man, it was genuinely been insightful and helpful for me in relationships with college students and the way they think about love and relationships, because it's a mess. It's a mess, and it was it's interesting to watch that show play out and what they do with their characters over the course of time. And I also think it would, if I had known that show ahead of time, I would change my answer on which show would you want to live in. I think partly the combination of it being London, I think would be a blast.
It's actually Scotland, and it's super dreary.
It's Scotland.
So
what? I don't know. I might go back. I might change
it. Just like Seattle.
Nobody works either. That's the other part.
Seattle. It's just like Seattle. Everyone's pale.
Nobody works. Nobody in that show ever works.
I know. They mentioned their jobs like one time on the first episode and then never again.
Never again. And then like the main character doesn't have a job until like the very 3rd season or something. It's like, how in the world do these people survive? But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's a show where a bunch of the side characters are hysterical.
Oh my gosh. Are you talking about Angus?
He's great. But even like the random doctor in the one episode is just so funny. So I don't know. There's a lot of that. So anyway, you guys were right. I should have listened to you much sooner. I did not. I have now spread the gospel of Lovesick around to a bunch of other people.
My gosh, the categories of things I can recommend to you now have just like exploded.
Oh boy, see, this is what I was afraid of. This is what I was afraid of. This is what I was afraid of.
Have you ever seen Fever Pitch?
I love Fever Pitch. That's like, I hate the baseball version, but I love the British version.
Nope, the baseball version. The Jimmy Fallon.
We have this fight every like 2 years.
It's my unpopular opinion.
Yeah, and for a reason.
It's such a good movie.
Have you ever read the book? The book is really good, and then the British version's amazing. And then I can't say what I really think about it because we're trying to keep the podcast clean and I don't want to edit it later.
All right, I'll save us from this. I'll move us on to what. I can start with a long monologue about how long it's been. So I have like 20 to pick from. But since you started on one that it was like a miss by you, I'll start on one that was a miss by me. You mailed me 2 copies of this book over the course of 5 or 6 years. I don't know how long ago.
Finally happened. Did you read it?
Yeah, I read that Mirror to the Church.
Yes,
by a dude or whatever. It was really, really good, really insightful.
Who wrote it?
Emmanuel Kitongle.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Kitongle is with a K.
I will mail you one of those copies, B, because I'm pretty sure that you did mail them. I might have ordered one on Amazon after I was convicted by you telling me to read it, and then I had lost it or something. But then I found it. I don't know.
But now you have
For some reason,
copies.
I have 2 copies of it. And just such insightful stuff. So many. I love when he quotes some dude about how the church has done a great job of evangelizing the Western church, but they did a horrible job of going deep enough. You remember that he's quoting from some dude, and as I was sitting in worship this last Sunday, I think that was it's convicting. It's convicting how. These huge, like the Western church, like a lot of these bigger churches and a lot of these, and myself included, like I think we've made it just a not deep enough discipleship relationship with Jesus that we've invited people into, and we're at a dangerous spot. I think that's one of the primary things I got out of that book is just how dangerous a spot we're at. Especially doubly dangerous because we don't realize we're in danger,
Right.
Anyway,
and that's Kitongle's point overall. I think, consistently, is that the what we think of as Christianity is not deeper than our tribalism, and that's his great line that I quote all the time is, "Are the waters of baptism, do they run deeper than the blood of tribalism?"
Yeah,
that's what he wants to hit on over and over and over again. And the short answer for him in the genocide was no. And I think his answer for us would be no. It's not even close. Like our tribalism trumps our baptism almost every time. And I know that's true for me when I'm watching baseball. I don't know if it's true everywhere, but for sure when it's the Yankees, tribalism goes the other way.
I agree. And we're so quick to be tribal over so many things.
Yeah.
There's a big surf company out here called Ruka. That's the clothing company.
Okay.
And just looking around at church on Sunday, I would say 85% of people were wearing something Ruka.
Wow.
At this worship service. And I'm just like, wow, it's intense. Like, and there's tribalism over Apple. There's there's tribal.
Yeah.
We're so quick to huddle together.
Yeah, as long as it's not deep or requiring
that's true.
Requiring that sort of cutting away of that tribalism, right?
Yeah.
Like if our allegiances actually cut against that stuff, then they're too far. That's when we know they're troubling, right?
And I think that's a huge dilemma that we're not talking about as church, as how do we compete with such surfacey tribalism? I think we've gone about it. I think we've gone about it by just having an equally as surface tribal.
Yeah, that's the point. That's the move, right?
Yeah. And how do we say, nah, like this isn't it? Like we're missing a big the depth piece. Anyway,
Have you ever did either of you guys? Bianca does youth ministry, so I don't know if she's seen it or not either. But have either of you guys seen the episode of King of the Hill where Bobby like falls in with this skateboarding youth pastor who's also like a punk rocker kind of guy?
I never saw that one.
It's a super dated reference now, but the whole premise is that there's this really cool guy who comes to town. And he's the youth minister, but he like skateboards. He plays in like Christian music festivals and all this stuff. And Bobby's dad Hank gets really mad and like forbids Bobby from going to this guy's youth group, even though like Hank is a Christian and they go to church and all this stuff. And so they have this fight about it, and Bobby eventually, sneaks out and rebels so he can go to this youth group or whatever. And then it boils down at the very end to Hank takes Bobby into the garage and he pulls down this box of things that used to be cool but aren't cool anymore. And he shares them with Bobby, and Bobby's like, "Oh, I can't believe I ever liked that." Like one of these like, these little, I don't know, stuffed animal things or something. He's like, I never liked those. Those aren't cool. And he goes, "You did. You liked them. Like, you had a whole collection of them or whatever." And so like the ending point was Hank just tells Bobby, "I just don't want Jesus to end up in that box." Mm-hmm. And that's part of that. Like whenever I think of that sort of surface tribalism, allegiance stuff, that when we make Christianity that, when we make Jesus that, or the gospel that we always run the risk of at some point something cooler is just going to come along, right? Like, and then we'll change to that.
Yeah.
Or in the case of Rwanda, something more deadly will come along and require us to make choices we're not prepared to make yet.
Yeah. Loosely related. Did anybody see that Silicon Valley?
That's my number 2. Don't talk about it yet. That's my number 2.
Okay.
I've probably seen it because I've seen every episode, but I don't know what you're referring to.
Well, if you had seen it, you would know. It just happened.
Yeah.
It was Sunday's episode.
Somebody go to 2.
I'm one back. I am one back.
Oh, no! You guys were my only hope for people I know who watched it. So I'm
Dang it. Well, I've only had to watch the one. I was 2 back. I just watched 1 yesterday.
Oh, no. All right. You're up, B.
Oh, was that Jason? Oh my gosh, that was Jason's ending with Greg. Okay.
No, come on now. It's a conversation.
That was my 1A.
Yeah.
Jason, continue.
Point of order. I have 1B.
I've actually got 2 TV shows. One I'm still watching, so maybe I won't recommend it so I don't do the Louis C.K. thing where I tell everyone to So I'll wait for that one. But and the next one is a little racier, so it's not for everyone. I might have mentioned it on the pod before, but there's a show on HBO called High Maintenance. And essentially it's about a weed dealer in Manhattan. But what I love about the show is that every episode he's going to deliver to someone else. And so he gets to go into their apartment and be a little bit a part of their life and then just dip out. And then he gets another call and he goes to other parts. And it's just a cool way of seeing different parts of Brooklyn pretty much. And then, so this year's the 3rd season, I think. And I've watched every episode. I think it's so hilarious. It's doing something that no other show is doing. And, but this year they really get into the guy. They just call him the guy. He doesn't have a name. And they go into his backstory a little bit. And they actually go into his apartment for the first time in 3 seasons. You're used to seeing everybody else he runs into. Mm-hmm. And you kind of get a glimpse of their life, but you never really get to see the guy's life. And so, I mean, if you're already watching it, this season is really great. I don't know if I'm recommending it. I'm just telling you that I like it. It's not for everyone. There is some, especially for this season, I recommended this season to someone, and then I watched it and realized the first episode is like bonkers. So sorry about that to person I recommended to. So just, you don't have to watch it. Just know that, there's some really creative TV shows out there. They don't all, I think it's with the mainstream shows too, but on HBO, it's these, now they're ex-husband and wife, but this couple that are creating these little 30-minute movies. And it's just about characters. It's just about people who happen to live in Brooklyn. Every story is different. It's very diverse. Their stories are diverse. It's always funny. They had a whole episode on just following all the characters happen to be immigrants into the U.S. So just kind of seeing what their life looks like. Anyway, so I don't know what I'm doing about high maintenance. Is just telling you that I like it. Okay?
You enjoy it. It's something you're grateful for.
It's something I'm grateful for. I love the creativity of it. I haven't seen anything like it. Some scenes I just think about over and over, like, what made them think of that? It's so creative. So anyway,
I never watched High Maintenance. It just didn't look interesting.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I mean, I know it exists. I just never.
Yeah, it's about people. And one of my favorite things ever in the whole world is just to people watch. I go to Green Lake and I just sit there and I watch everybody walk by. And I could do it for hours and hours. The airport is the same way. I totally zone out. I think about everybody. So it's kind of like you're people watching for 30 minutes through the eyes of someone who's as interested as I am about.
I'm really glad you recommended it, because I've kind of been waiting for a reason to try it, because I saw that dude, the dude that writes him, you know, like
Ben Sinclair. He's the guy.
He was on some talk show, and he just seemed extremely genuine to me. Like,
yeah,
I forget who talk show. I think it was Colbert or Conan. I know it wasn't Kimmel, and he turned it into like almost a therapy session. Like he was so real and like so genuine with whoever was interviewing.
That's how the show is.
Because they asked the question, like his first, like the interviewer was, I think the first question out of the gate was, "How is it working with your ex-wife?" And he went deep. He was just like, it's actually really difficult sometimes, but I think the end goal is worth it, because in this like crazy time, I think people need to see and experience some joy. Like he said something profound like that, and I was just like, dude, that's gnarly. It was just really, really good.
Yeah, that's the lens he creates the show. So it's like someone who is genuinely interested in the way people make decisions and things they're going through, even though it's usually just a glimpse, because the whole half hour you'll probably see 3 different people he delivers to. But then so if you really do invest and you watch all the seasons, he goes back to some of the people and you get to kind of catch up with what's going on in their life since the last time you saw him, or last time you saw him. Anyway, we should move on because it is a little racy and I am a youth pastor. So.
Speaking of things that are a little racy that we all enjoy, my number 2 is Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley.
I said silicone. Silicon Valley. And particularly the latest episode.
It's Sufjan Stevens.
Oh,
sorry, Silicon Valley. Got it.
But it's so good. Like this latest episode, the entire show I think is hilarious. I know there's disagreement on that in the world.
Not on this pod.
Not on this podcast.
It is incredibly crass and crude in a bunch of ways. So know that going in. But
nobody ever got high from a secondhand coke high or something. Remember, like it's so anti-smoking, like secondhand smoke.
But that, like, one of the things that Mike Judge, who does this show and did Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill and all that stuff, Office Space, one of the things he does is play with categories sometimes and put you like off balance because of the way he's using those categories. And this last Sunday's episode is like maybe the best that I've ever seen of anybody doing it. It was so good. It's maybe not the funniest episode of that show, but it is absolutely the most insightful and biting and clever episode of that show. And
Are you watching it like this?
Yeah, that's exactly how I laughed out loud a bunch of times, but then I was like so uncomfortable at other points that I watched it. I think I saw the episode 4 times now, because it's like I watched it once and I was like, Abby, you have to watch this show with me. And she does not like the show. She's tried to watch it. She does not get into it, but she watched that one. She's like, oh wow, I can't believe somebody did that. And then I've sent it to every friend of mine that I have that lives in California, and like especially in that part of California where it's like my friend Phil lives up there. I just visited him, and he was talking the entire time about how weird it is being a Christian in Northern California.
Yeah.
And then this is an entire episode about that. It's like, what in the world? It just came out of nowhere, but it was so well done.
Agreed.
Yeah, it was so good. So, I like, you haven't seen it, B, so I'm torn on like how much to actually talk about it.
You can totally talk about it because
you kind of can't though, because like
spoiler free.
When it shows up, it totally ruins you for a second of like, oh, I can't believe, and like
we can say one quote? Can I say one quote?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll literally forget what I'm watching.
I'll do the one quote where it says, like, do you want to be a rock band or a Christian rock band? I think
his response to that was fantastic too.
Yeah, it doesn't ruin that quote doesn't ruin it, but I think that's just that's the crux. That's the fulcrum. I love that.
If you've never watched the show, you can watch that episode and it'll make enough sense that you'll appreciate it. If you have watched the show, you absolutely have to catch up to it. It's one of the best episodes of any show I've ever seen. And obviously there's correlations to my life in it, so that's part of the reason, but it was so well done and so well handled and written and acted. It's just hilarious. And jaw dropping and spots of like, oh, I can't believe they even tried to pull that off.
Oh gosh.
But they did. I thought it worked great.
They landed it. They
absolutely landed it. It was so
I know
good.
this was 2 episodes ago, but at the end when Kumail that they have a mole and he goes up to the table
to tell the mole.
We have a mole. I rewound that like 3 times because I could not stop laughing at that.
He's so good in that show. And I've really enjoyed this season because they're not floundering constantly. It's like they've like moved past the like we don't have any idea what we're doing and we have this major screw up that is impossible to solve, which is like the premise of the first 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So now it's
every episode.
Yeah, so now it's like a little less of that, which is good, and it allows them to do some other things. And
I miss TJ.
I do too, but
I hope they bring him back in some way, shape, or form.
I love the other guy though, the Chinese guy. I can't remember his name.
John Yoon
oh man, he's funny, and he's great in this episode too.
It's not even his car. Okay. I'll make mine a wicked quick one just to make up some time. But Jack White's new record, I love it. I love it.
I haven't heard it yet. What's it called?
I don't even know. I'm a part of that his fan club, and that's another piece of it. I love being a part of his fan club. But
let's talk about tribes again.
Yeah. But I moved in the middle of it, and so I didn't know it would find me, but it found me. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
So it caught up with me.
I'm gonna see if it's on Spotify. So I can listen.
I almost put him down for Saturday Night Live because Saturday Night Live this week was him and John Mulaney, and John Mulaney was gold. He was so good.
Also haven't watched
He was also his interview in the Rolling Stone magazine was interesting too.
Yeah,
because they did a piece on him. And
Jason, do you want to tell our listeners what a magazine is?
Am I gonna have to buy a DVD player too? That's funny. That's good. All right, let's keep going. I want to catch up. I want to give us tons of time, and I don't want to be the only one.
Okay, this is my last one.
Did anybody look up what Jack White's album?
It's on Spotify. What's it called? It's called Boarding House Reach.
I think the worst song is the one that was his first single on it. I think that's the worst song on the album.
My brother wasn't totally impressed with the album, but maybe he was talking about the first song.
Hey, while we're here on Jack White, there was a sketch from Saturday Night Live that got cut this week called "Who Is Jack?"
Mm-hmm.
And you should both go look that up afterwards. Maybe I'll see if I can find it and send it to you. It's really funny. It's Jack White at a wedding. It's really funny.
I'm in.
Me too. I'm gonna watch that. Okay, my third thing is right before I went to Tijuana was Easter, and I went to Texas to go see my
family.
And
they got a new place, right, or something?
Yeah, they're building a house down in South Texas, and when I say South Texas, I mean super south, like maybe an hour from the border.
What's the city?
Harlingen. It's north of Harlingen.
Okay.
And so this has always been our family property, but now my immediate family, so my parents have property there, and they decided to build a house, and it'll be done in June. And so I got to see it for the first time. But then my aunts and uncles all have property around it too, and some of
so are they
them
going to live there like part of the year and then part of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're really crappy Seattle times. And then they'll be up here. Other than that. So we were all gathering for Easter anyway. So my cousins were there, my aunts and uncles. Not all my cousins, obviously, because that would be too many. But
obviously, yeah.
to do Easter together, and it's one of my aunt's birthdays. And so, I mean, as much as that is I'm grateful to have gone. I'm grateful to have been there. My brother and sister couldn't go, so I was grateful that I got to go. But just the detail that I keep remembering when I think about it is just the way that my family tells stories. And I never really thought I thought that was like something I did and I thought was like kind of fun. And like I would judge people's stories and stuff like that. But it's literally in my blood. Like we would go just back and forth and be like, just telling stories. And one time we had a question about something, so my uncle pulled out the phone and was Wikipediaing, and he was reading Wikipedia and go, this isn't how you should tell this story. Like to Wikipedia, being like, oh, I would have put that fact first to get people interested, and then boom, hit them with the fact. And I was like, you can't be obviously you can't edit Wikipedia, is not the point, but just reading something on your phone and being like, that's not how I would have said it. It's like, oh my gosh, like this is how I function. As I'm reading like an article, I'm like, why didn't they like start with the mystery, you know? So anyway, that was like my number one takeaway from being with a large amount of my Hispanic family down in the valley over Easter break. And I'm just very grateful for them, and most clearly grateful for the way that they tell stories, and I love listening to them. I've apparently really absorbed that in my life as well. So yeah, I'm just grateful for where I come from and just being around them a few weeks ago.
Nice.
That's it.
I always forget that you have family that live in southern Texas for some reason.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah,
cool.
There have a few in Rio Grande. Most of them live in the major cities, though. We just all gather down there. But now, we'll be down there more often.
That's really cool. I don't really have anything to piggyback. Oh well, the thing that you brought up was I was gonna piggyback on Easter also, because we celebrated Easter while we were all gone and apart. And Easter is one of those holidays that, for I think the three of us, like we love Easter as a holiday anyway, but it's also one of those holidays where the three of us got to be much better friends because we got to celebrate Easter together.
Oh yeah,
a couple of times, at least once. But
we did do cascarones together.
Yeah, that's right. Bianca introduced us to cascarones, which is awesome, and my kids still bother me with it every year. So one of the things about Easter for me that I come back to every time is like this. The last 3 weeks I've been teaching on just the resurrection from 1 Corinthians 15, and I spent so much of my life being Christian and not knowing why Easter mattered at all. Like that it was important. Like I knew it was important that I believed that it happened and that we celebrated it every year, but it just never had any actual bearing on my life. And so as an adult now and having come through it, like Easter always for me now is like, there's so much life there, and there's so much in how we're meant to live in the resurrection that is just hopeful and important and significant. And so anyway, doing Easter again this year, I came away from that one more time of like, man, I just really love Easter. And I think if we could instill the love of Easter versus maybe the love of Christmas in our kids, we'd be winning. N.T. Wright has this great quote where he says, you could take away Christmas from the Bible and you would lose 2 chapters. If you took away Easter, you would lose like almost the entire New Testament. And it's like, man, it's totally true, but we don't think that way. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
I love Easter.
Is that your 3? Are we?
That's my 3. Yeah, my 3 is Easter.
That's crazy. And just
Easter and resurrection in particular. I think the significance of the resurrection.
Nice. And I'll piggyback on yours, but this is my 3. I'll go into. I'll make my 3 real short though, just because I was moving, like I was moving in the middle of Easter. And so Easter Sunday was my first Sunday back into a worshiping community. And it was just a flood. It was just amazing. It was just, and I did miss you guys. It's crazy that those couple Easters together, really, they did. I think there was a pivot point of the importance of Easter, like getting deeper and deeper. And then as I was moving, one of the only books I found, like, cause I don't know, in the movie, like there's all these books that's boxed up and all this stuff like that. For some one reason, that N.T. Wright, The Day the Revolution Began.
Yeah,
it was one of my top 3 or top 5s or whatever it first came out, and I just picked that up again, and I was just blown away by, because it's N.T. Wright. It's based on the question which I had never asked until I read it, was why did Jesus rise again on Passover rather than the Day of Atonement? And he makes the argument in this book, it's because the Gospel of John is making the argument that the resurrection is the second Exodus, because he starts off the book John 1:1, like in the beginning, it's a new Genesis, it's the second Genesis. Jesus is the second Genesis, but also the resurrection is the second Exodus, and we enter into the kingdom of God, by becoming new creations. And I don't know. Easter's, the resurrection is just awesome. I don't know. I'm with you. So, amen on your 3. In my 3, I think it would just be, man, there's so many. But I guess just the trip across the country, and it's a little bit of family, because we started in Michigan. We stopped and spent some time with an aunt that I haven't seen in a long time, that has a bunch of horses, and Elsie got to ride her first horse and have all this fun time in Missouri. And there's the lesson out of that is there's people just doing it. You know what I mean? There's people just doing it. They wake up at like 4 a.m. before the sun, and they're feeding all these animals, and they're loving people, and they're loving life, and they're just working. Nobody's giving them any prizes, nothing. They're just sweating and loving God and loving people. They're just doing it, and I'm just honored to be related to some of them and serve them. As a pastor, it always comes up, and all these, it should come up every time we gather together. It's an amazing piece of it. And then we cruise through Kansas. Kansas is gorgeous. I don't know if anybody.
I totally disagree on this.
This is
one of your worst takes of all time. Yeah.
No, it gets a bad. You and my wife. This is where nemesis, become one.
That's
like
right.
My wife
come all the way back around.
Yeah, my wife and you are of the same voice. We could flush all of that middle of the country down the toilet.
The only place uglier than Kansas is Oklahoma, and that's it's a very low bar.
Oklahoma was the first place we saw green. It was crazy. We were because everything's dead because it's winter, and like that. And then we roll into Oklahoma, almost at the state border, and there's just green. It was like an explosion of green. Anyway, Oklahoma, Texas, Flagstaff, Arizona. I love that place. Anyway, so just the trip across the country, wrapped in with like family, just beauty, was really, really fun. Shout out to Ed. Remember Ed, my star leader? He flew out and drove out my Prius. P.S. That's another transforming. I now have like 3 times as much patience as I used to. I'm still way less than most people.
Than an actual patient person, yeah.
An actual patient person. No, it was because I was driving the Penske. I was driving the 28-foot truck, and they don't go over 70.
No.
And on hills,
I don't think they're supposed to go over like 55.
No.
Totally full. And
the speed limit is 80, or whatever.
Yeah.
But and hills, they don't go over 40.
Yeah.
I just there were so many funny times.
That's why you like Kansas so much.
Yeah. It was so flat. That's true. That's true. That might be it. That might be the reason. I was going 70 the whole time through Kansas.
You have to actually drive in Kansas.
Yeah. Hated Arizona driving, man. In California, it was so horrible. This mountains was crazy. But I tried and pass these 18 wheelers, and I almost get there like this one guy, this dude looked like a pot smoker. He might have been even smoking pot like while he was driving this truck. But he looks over at me, and I'm trying to pass him, but he just nods at me. no, you don't got it. And I just slipped back into oblivion. And just kept on going.
Know your limits.
That's so good. All right, Jason, you get to rank
All
them.
right, top 5.
Rank them.
Yeah. I'd say first Mexico. Just the longevity of serving beef, like your gold and your ministry's gold, and that's what I'm grateful for too. That just spills over into me. Love Sick. That's cool. Good job, Greg.
Yep.
I'm gonna throw Mirror to the Church just because.
Yes. I'm taking credit for that one, even though it's not mine.
Are you just naming them all in order?
No, God, I'm not. I am kind of, but this is what I wrote.
Exact order.
1, 2, 3, and then I think I'll do High Maintenance. I don't know, just because I want to try it. I'm gonna throw it in there.
You are
pick that one over Easter.
So a little dangerous. Yeah, I'm sure. And then I'm sorry. Even the resurrection is probably should be over every list.
But
Bee's Family Story.
But I'm gonna go with Jack White's thing.
No, I'm not gonna go with Jack White. I'm gonna go with Family Story. Bee's Family Story.
oh my gosh!
Oh, no way! No, it's rigged. This whole thing is rigged.
No,
I need an outside judge. This is ridiculous.
It kind of rolled into your Easter, and it kind of rolled into my my family, my trip across the country.
How about just all family?
All of you West Coast guys sticking together now. I don't appreciate this at all. This is a real problem.
West Coast.
No, it's one of the
problem.
But if you would have said your story, that's like
no.
Yeah, I would have thrown it in there. I love the way you tell stories. I love the way Bee tells stories. I'm really glad that God put her together the way she did, the way God did, and the way that surrounded her with a family that all those pieces go into that amazing.
All right.
God,
I didn't hate Bianca's story either, but I'm not putting it above the resurrection. That's all I'm saying. All right, B.
Oh,
you know what time it is?
Okay, B, so it's time. Boom. I had weeks and weeks and weeks to think of something, but I just thought of something in the past few minutes.
I love it when preachers start like that.
Yeah, exactly. Hey guys, I thought of this last night. Oh boy.
I've been working on this for years.
And then I threw it out this morning to give you this message.
Yeah, I was taking a shower and I thought, man.
Well, this came up because when we were in San Diego on our way to Tijuana, we stopped at In-N-Out Burger. We might have already had this question, honestly.
Oh boy.
But it's been said by Californians exclusively that In-N-Out Burger is the best burger. But I want to hear from the three of you guys, what's the best fast food burger?
I feel like we literally just had this one.
Did we really? I think too.
Maybe
no,
not.
We did.
No, what were we talking about?
I think we talk about it a
Restaurant.
lot.
We did talk about fast food burgers.
We talk a lot about food.
That's why that's actually how it came about. It's like, what's something we all have in common? Food.
So what's our favorite fast food burger?
Yeah. We did minor gripe.
All right, so I'll give mine. It's a lame one. I like all of them. That's the first one. I'm a great big fat person. You can't feed me a burger. I don't know.
I say D, all of the above.
Having said that, the one that when I have it sort of has like that, like this is so ridiculous, and I'm so sorry just before I even give it. I love Burger King burgers.
Yay!
And it's such a lame one. But when I was a little kid, I lived in Japan for 3 years with my dad was a Marine, and I had to go to this base that was like 45 minutes away or an hour away by bus, and I'd have like eye doctor appointments, and there was McDonald's in Japan when we first moved there, but they all the food tasted different than America food, and but then they opened up this Burger King on base, and my mom would take me there after eye appointments every time, and it tasted like Burger King in the U.S. And I was like, so when I think of freedom, when I think of the U.S., when I think of patriotism, I think of
BK broiler.
Burger
BK
King
broiler.
cheeseburgers. Yeah. So anyway, that's I think when I'm traveling too, it's a go-to. Like I know exactly what it's going to taste like every time, which I find comforting. So I don't know. It's a lame one, but Burger King.
That's so funny that I wanted to say Burger King and then I like convinced myself to like I really like the Burger King burger.
Now again, back to my point. I will not pass up a burger if you're offering.
Yeah.
You can throw a Wendy's, McDonald's. I don't care. I'll eat whatever. In-N-Out, I enjoy too. I mean, it doesn't matter.
If you're going worldwide, I would have to say Burger King too, just because it's the only one not regional. You know, like you can't get In-N-Out burgers everywhere.
But I'm just going by taste.
This is just your favorite. That just has to be my
taste.
In-N-Out's my favorite, by the way. You know, like, but you can't get In-N-Out anywhere, you know, east. So you're kind of jacked, you know.
Yeah, I also like the Burger King burger. I would say around here there's a really good tasting burger, the Red Mill, but it's too big. It's like too greasy.
This is the part we had the conversation about before. You can't not like something because it's too much of what you like.
Yeah, it's too much. It's like if I'm preparing myself to get a Red Mill burger, I have to think like meals ahead and meals after. Like this isn't gonna keep. I gotta eat the whole thing.
And what's the name of this thing?
Red Mill burger.
Red Mill?
Yeah, Red Mill, like a windmill.
Gotcha.
It's really good. I would say Dick's Burgers around here, but I'm just gonna have to go with Burger King because minus the onions because they do raw onions, which I don't love.
I don't do onions on anything. But...
Yep. So BK's. BK.
All right, somebody's got to send this podcast to Burger King because they have never had this much excitement.
Yeah.
I was so surprised.
Yeah. And my wife, she doesn't listen, but she would probably hate this conversation, just to let you know.
I know she doesn't like mayo, and that's the number one.
She hates the fact that I even eat Burger King burgers.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's a struggle in our marriage. Like this is like round of meeting stuff for her.
It's probably because you went around for a long time saying you want it your way right away. That just gets old quick.
Who's the man?
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, thank you for listening to This Week in Gratitude. We have had fun talking and we hope you've had fun listening. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell people you don't even like that much. Just have them subscribe to us and follow along. And now that Jason's in California again, I think we're really close to shirts. So keep subscribing. Amen. We're almost there.
That's where famous people live.
That's right. It's where famous people live. And once we get this Burger King sponsorship, everything's going to come in around. So, all right, guys. Thanks for talking this week.
Would you get a Burger King tattoo?
No.
Probably not. Probably not.
That's the B-side follow-up question.
If I had named my kid like Bianca and Kevin,
BK,
then I could have a BK tattoo, right?
With the logo.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But I didn't do it.
Okay, right, bye.
Bye.
Word.